Y'all, when I say I am distressed that I missed the statue unveiling.
Seriously, of all times.
Of all times to have a surgery. I mean, come on, man. It's such a big event. But Dawn Staley, obviously, they announced it a couple years ago, so we knew it was happening, but it was a really quick notice. We didn't get told until Monday that it was going to be unveiled on Wednesday. So you guys, I'm at home laying on the couch and I'm texting like, okay, I guess everyone's got to get a game plan together. Welcome into South Carolina Sideline, everybody. I'm back. This is Sports Director Matt Dowell. I live. This is Sports Director Matt Dowell alongside Claire Foley. I'm so happy to finally be back here on South Carolina Sideline here in the podcast room. If you don't know, I had minor surgery about a month ago. I'm all good, but I had to be on my couch for the last 4 weeks. The recovery's been just a slow process. So Claire and Jared have been holding down the fort. You guys have done an amazing job. When I tell you, guys, I've been watching this podcast at home because if you don't know, we're on YouTube now too. We have a visual component, so you can watch on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow all that stuff on all of our audio and visual platforms. But I've been watching you guys. You guys have done such an outstanding job. I got to give Claire and Jared their props because the podcast is very new, and you guys really had to take hold of it while I was gone, and you guys did such an outstanding job. I mean, thousands upon thousands of views already. We crossed the 200 subscriber mark on our YouTube, which we are very, very happy about. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo.
Keep it going, keep it going.
Keep it going, keep it going. But we are excited. But Claire, I'm happy to be back. You guys have done such a good job, and I just had to give you guys your props before we started.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I said this at the beginning when we first got this idea of doing the podcast and trying to get it to actually come to fruition. Part of our job, obviously with TV, is we're confined to such a short amount of time. Yeah. So it's nice to have this area to be able to come talk more in depth about the things that we're doing, the games that are going on, some of the behind the scenes stuff that we like to give you guys. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun. So let's get into it. We have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the WNBA preseason has been the talk of the summer when it comes to women's basketball. We have so many Gamecocks in the league these days, but I want to talk about one rookie in particular because the season starts in just a few days. But during this preseason, Claire, Te-Hina Paopao been lighting it up. I mean, she has been just on fire, especially in their last game against the Fever. She led the Dream with 14 points. She was doing things on both ends of the floor. I mean, talk about a seamless transition to the pros. Paopao looks like she could be a starter soon for Atlanta.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that no matter what the sport is, that's the question that always comes to mind is how is the transition going to be for any rookie season? And I think that in some way that can be maybe one of the benefits of how short the break is between college basketball and the WNBA is you're just kind of thrown right into it. You have to just pick up right away, and she's certainly done that. I think comfortability goes a long way, and we've seen her just smile and laughing on the court. Did you see the thing the other day where Aaliyah shot a free throw and she started clapping for it? She's like, oh, not supposed to do
we're
that.
not on the same team.
So that's funny. So you definitely see her having fun out there, and that's what makes it easier to have those comfortable transition is when they visibly feel comfortable.
Yeah, and so much. The WNBA is probably the hardest pro league to make it in because there are so few roster spots for rookies. So much has to go right. One of those is you have to fit the system, and they have to need you. You know, someone like Bree Hall, who gets drafted to the Fever, who is already so guard heavy, it's going to be a lot harder for her to make a roster like that than someone like Paopao, who kind of fits into this Dream system very well and is occupying a spot that they need somebody in. And I think that is one thing that's going Paopao's way is that the Dream needs someone like her. They need a player like her. And she seems to be thriving in this system so far because, I mean, she's going inside the paint. She's driving inside. She's hitting threes. She's doing it efficiently. And you also only have so much time to prove yourself in this league. So I think she's made a huge statement, and I think it's a credit, too, to what Dawn Staley and the South Carolina staff did these past 2 years.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, because she looks ready to go on a Dream team that has a lot of veterans on it as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You talk about in Te-Hina's time, 2 years here, how she really developed her game comprehensively.
Yeah.
I mean, she was known for the threes in her first season here, and then last year it was more about defense and maybe some of the smaller playmaker kind of things she was doing behind the scenes. So coming into a league where, like you said, there are so many limited spots available, to be able to be multifaceted, have different things that you can do to help a team out, it only works in her favor.
Yeah.
And so that's, like you said, a credit to what Dawn Staley does here in Columbia to get these women draft ready.
Yeah. Well, Paopao is so popular everywhere that she goes. I mean, and it's because of her infectious personality. And she went viral the other day talking about the difference between the college and the pros, but she wasn't talking about game-wise. She meant freedom-wise. Here's what she had to say about what it's like being a pro athlete in 2025.
I mean, it does look a little different. I had to, speed things up a little today just because of how early our game was. And so I'm just going to take little bits and pieces and see where I can find my little niche in the pregame routine. What was new is that I had my own room. I also didn't have to ask permission to leave the hotel. I thought that was so cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. And like I said, I just got to take one game and one day at a time.
So Paopao has really, in my opinion, been the big headliner for the Gamecocks, especially from a newbie perspective in this preseason. But when you look at the rest of the WNBA, I mean, of course, A'ja Wilson's doing A'ja Wilson things. A lot of these familiar faces that we've seen the past few years are doing their thing. Veterans like A'ja, though, preseason's more about the newbies, the ones fighting for spots. A'ja's going to save her stuff, for the regular season, even though she's playing great minutes-wise and all that kind of stuff. But I also thought Camila Cardoso has looked really, really good for the Chicago Sky. And the Sky have talked about making Camila the focal point of their offense. Last year with the Sky, it was really her and Angel, and then Kennedy Carter, a lot of these different pieces. But the new head coach for the Sky has said Camila is going to be the focus. And I think Camila has looked really, really good so far in the preseason, trying to be the focal point. And she played so well in China in this offseason. I think that helped her a lot to just keep getting reps, really establish herself as a pro. I'm expecting big things from Camila for Chicago. And I think she's ready for the challenge. I think Camilla's going to be ready for a big sophomore season.
I think that is what is so different about, you look from the rookie to a sophomore year for women in the pros, is how much you see them develop, whether it's confidence, how they carry themselves, that kind of thing. You look at Aaliyah, how much she has developed in her poise and how she carries herself like a pro. And something I saw on Twitter earlier was Camila talking about how she's really focusing on her defense. And you felt how much South Carolina missed that kind of defense this year. So it's like, whew, if she's working on that even more, that's going to be good.
It's going to be good. But of course, that Camila Angel Reese combo is already so good when they were both rookies, both getting better. I think Chicago's going to be in for a good season. They added some veterans as well, like Courtney Vandersloot, who is doing some major pick and roll action with Camila so far in the preseason. So I'm interested to see what Chicago comes up with this season. But there are so many Gamecocks in the WNBA. We'll be following the WNBA all summer long and talk about the hottest topics with the Gamecocks in that league. And before we go to our next topic, though, I want to give a shout out to the graduates of South Carolina women's basketball. Raven Johnson graduating the past few days. Sakima Walker graduating as well. And Sanaya Fagan, who got a special graduation out in LA.
I loved that. Loved that. As she was running out onto the court, she was in full cap and gown, had the balloons going. So fun. Love that.
So fun. And I love that the Sparks gave her that opportunity because she couldn't be here in Columbia at the CLA for her graduation. So they threw her a special ceremony out in LA. So you can find that video on the Sparks social media pages. It was such a great moment. Sanaya Fagan, one of the nicest athletes I've ever covered. Such a great kid, such a great family. I mean, talk about someone who is just full of joy. And so I think when she smiles and is having a good time, everyone else is having a good time as well. So when we come back, we're going to take a break here on South Carolina Sideline. When we come back, we're going to talk about South Carolina softball, who is a national title contender already. We'll talk about it in just a few minutes. All right, South Carolina softball is having an unbelievable season. And I'm not talking just like good season for first-year head coach, like an unbelievable season for any head coach, no matter who they are. But Ashley Chastain Woodard, Claire, has put together a first season as South Carolina's head coach that is unbelievable, historic in so many ways. Yesterday, we were at the selection show for South Carolina softball. They're the number 8 overall seed at the NCAA tournament. So not only are they going to host this weekend, They're going to be hosting a super regional if they get out of this weekend. This is unbelievable what they've done this year.
And this is a team that was picked to finish last in their own conference, let alone number 8 in the entire country. So it's really special what they've been able to do. Like you said, Ashley Chastain Woodard, she set a new record for most wins by a first-year head coach for the South Carolina program in the regular season. I believe it was at 39. That set the record. She's at more than 40 now after the weekend in the SEC tournament. So really, really exciting things for her and the whole Gamecock crew.
It was such a great reaction as well at the selection show. It was between them and UCLA, I believe, as that last super regional host, that national seed, as they call it in softball. And South Carolina got it. I mean, the screams of joy were unbelievable. It was so awesome for a group that no one really had expectations for just a few months ago. But when you look at their region, Claire, I think this team can get to Oklahoma City.
I really do too. As you look at who they have in the regional round, they have Virginia, Elon, and North Florida coming in. First, they're going to take on Elon on Friday. Elon, some of their losses they have this season are teams that South Carolina already beat. Clemson, UNC, Duke. And a couple of those, they were run rule victories. Yeah. So I think that's, I don't want to say easy because all these teams are in the tournament for a reason, but that's a good first team to get, having those, looking at that resume. And then they have Virginia. That's a team that they started the year with 2 wins over, one of those being a run rule victory. So I think that's a good first look at hoping to get to super regionals. And then you have that staying in Columbia hosting super regionals as a national seed. So I think the position they're in is a good one.
I think it's a good one as well. As you said, it starts on Friday against Elon. But we got to talk to the Gamecocks at their selection show yesterday. Ashley Chastain Woodard and her players very, very excited for what is a deserved national seed at this year's NCAA tournament.
It's just a moment that none of us will ever forget. You know, we set out to do something really special last summer with this roster, and I could not be more proud of the program. So thankful for, you know, this department for believing in me, believing in the staff, you know, that we could get to the program to this level, and just really proud of the players. They work so hard day in and day out, and just so excited for them. You know, we have the opportunity potentially to host a super regional here in Columbia, which is the first time, you know, that we're going to be able to do that in program history. So it's historic. It's a day that the program will never forget, and just really excited about it.
Excited to hear our name in the top 8, but just excited, ready to go, and ready to host a regional and a super regional. I think the resume that we had for this whole season, the success that we've had playing in the toughest conference in the country, what we did, I think we had every reason to earn a spot in the top 8, and I'm really glad that everybody else agreed with it too.
All right, the Gamecocks getting underway on Friday. And in case you're new to college softball, because it's also a sport that is rapidly growing in popularity, it's not like basketball, you know, football, where it's like one and done. You lose and you're out. In softball, baseball, you have to lose twice. So if South Carolina wins on Friday against Elon, they'll continue in the winner's bracket and go into Saturday. Should they lose on Friday, tournament's not over. They just fall into the loser's bracket, but then they can't lose again if that happens. So you do have to lose twice this weekend in order to get out. And the math does work out to where only one will be remaining standing when that happens. South Carolina, though, the big favorite to get out of this weekend. But Claire, before we move on, what are some of the big storylines or some things you want to say about South Carolina softball as they get ready for an NCAA tournament?
Well, you talk about how this team was doubted at the beginning of the year. Part of that reason was obviously the new head coach, but it was also who she was bringing with her. It was a lot of girls that had not played at the SEC level yet. One of those being her star pitcher up in Charlotte, Sam Gress. And what does she do? She comes in and gets all SEC honors. She's named to the all SEC second team, all defensive team. And kind of what surprised me about that was she was the only one from South Carolina to get SEC honors, just because how comprehensive and well-rounded we've seen this team be all year round. But you also have to remember, after seeing Selection Sunday yesterday, there were 14 SEC teams.
Say that again. 14. 14. That's insane.
That just shows you how stacked the SEC is. So congratulations to Sam. Awesome for her. A 6th year coming out for one final year of eligibility, and she's certainly gone out on a high note.
Yeah, South Carolina getting underway on Friday. We'll be there for all of it on WACH FOX. So you can watch us on Sports Zone, and we'll also, of course, have you covered here on our podcast next week with the result of this opening weekend regional. Now, let's take a deep breath as we go into baseball, Claire. Baseball, it's kind of a tale of two teams. We have the positivity, the excitement, the high of South Carolina softball. And then we have baseball, a proud program, a historic program that has won national championships. And I don't know, Claire, how to talk about this without just like saying the obvious. It's what everyone's thinking. It's a disaster.
Right.
It's a disaster.
Right.
And that's not I'm not throwing shade at Paul Maneri, who I like a lot. He's been on our show and he is a great guy, a legendary coach. But like, what is going on? I mean, it is bad.
And this is a team that was also expected to finish at the bottom of the SEC, but I don't think anyone expected it to be this bad, unfortunately. So much of it has just come down to pitching. The caliber of the pitching is just not where the entirety of the SEC is right now, and that's really what's shown once SEC play has started. You look at the midweek games and what South Carolina was able to accomplish before conference play started, and they were doing great. You have to remember, this team started out, 19-0?
Yeah.
We were talking same thing as Ashley Chastain Woodard, most first season wins as a head coach, and it just really went down as soon as SEC play started, and the pitching has really been where the problem has lied, and it's something head coach Paul Maneri has talked about. He said, I said to you at the beginning of this season that pitching is 90% of the game. When we talked to him last week, obviously in a much different place than they were at the beginning of the year, he's like, I said that at the beginning of the year that it was 90%. I think whoever said that saying was highly doubting how important it is for pitching. And I think the hardest thing as a viewer, and I'm sure even for them to have to deal with, is how many games have been lost late in the game. And that's something he talked about as well. So it's definitely going to be a go back to the drawing board kind of thing. But one thing he did say last week was, there have been a lot of questions about whether he was going to return or not next year. Yeah. He was very confident, saying there have been zero conversations doubting that he would be back last year. He's been on the recruiting path, going hard at it. He said they've been really successful in how they've been recruiting so far. He's confident in what he and pitching coach Terry Rooney are able to do going next year. A lot of the challenges for a first-year head coach come in the fact that you don't necessarily get to design the whole team you want. So you're coming into a program that already exists in one way, shape, or form, especially now with NIL. So obviously, have they come short of their expectations? His own expectations this year? Absolutely. He's the first to admit that. But he is also confident because of his past, his 40 years in college baseball, that there can be a turning of the page and turn a corner next year. And he said, I'm not saying next year we're going to be in Omaha, because he had mentioned at his first year at LSU, it was bad. But then the next year they were in Omaha. He said, no, I'm not promising Omaha. Yeah. But he used the phrase, we will rise from the ashes.
Well, there you go. I mean, they're not just losing, they are losing in a lot of these games. So it has been hard to watch. But Claire is our baseball expert, because that's your favorite sport to cover. Yes. So if you guys have any baseball questions, Claire has got you covered. That was a fantastic explanation on this whole situation, because it has been tough. And I think it's important to look at the big picture, to kind of, I know it's hard when it's like they're losing 22-3, they're losing, it's these scores are just crazy. But I think it's important, like you said, to kind of really lay everything out and look at a big picture, listen to what people are saying, all these conversations and all of that. So Claire, that was fantastic.
Thank you. I think it's easy to when any team loses, especially a program like baseball that they do have the national championships. It's hard as a fan to deal with the losses, and the first reaction is going to be to come for the head coach. But you have to remember, in any sport, look at it as a first-year head coach comes in. How many head coaches are one and done? Not many.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to win.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the first year that Ray Tanner was here, it was not as successful as going to Omaha.
Yeah.
But it takes time. And especially now in the NIL days, it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. So patience. That's, I think that's the
I know
message.
that's not what anybody wants to hear, but
and also just kind of wait and see what happens. You know, I mean, there's a new AD in town. You know, who knows what decisions he will make. So, I mean, there's just so many things. You kind of wait and see. The season also is not over. You never know what's going to happen at the SEC tournament. I know that's a long shot as well. But there's just a lot of waiting and seeing what decisions are made, because I think the new AD is also why a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen, because Donati did not hire Paul Maneri. You know, and there's always that question in any sport when you have a new AD. And
that question was asked point blank to Maneri the other day. When someone asked about his quote-unquote situation, he said, what situation? I haven't been talked about anything. This just seems a narrative that's come up with fans on Twitter and that kind of thing. And someone posed back to him, is like, well, it does seem like it would be a fair question because your boss isn't who hired you. And he said, yeah, you know what? When Ray Tanner first announced that he was going to be retiring, he's like, I was nervous. He's like, this isn't who hired me. This isn't necessarily what he signed up for. And he didn't know Jeremiah Donati at the time. He said, but if knowing what I know now, if I knew we were getting a new AD, I would handpick Jeremiah Donati.
Wow.
He said, they have a fantastic relationship. He feels nothing but supported by him, and not just him, but all the other head coaches in town. He mentioned Ashley Chastain Woodard. He mentioned Coach Beamer. He mentioned Lamont Paris. And so and he also mentioned the Board of Trustees. Like, you have to remember they're a part of the decisions and stuff too. And so he does not feel he's at least not saying he feels any pressure from administration, AD, that kind of thing. And says that they have a great relationship.
Yeah. Well, there you go. South Carolina baseball does not get any easier, by the way. They are playing the new #1 team in the country, LSU, to close out the regular season. So we will see how that goes. But if you're Gamecocks, all you got to do is still just play to win. That's all you got to do is try and play to win.
Finish strong.
Finish strong. That's all you can do at this point in the season. Well, we're going to take another time out here on South Carolina Sideline. Up next, though, we're going to go behind the scenes here as for us as journalists and give you a little taste of what it's like to cover some big events like the Dawn Staley statue. We'll talk about that when South Carolina Sideline returns. Well, one thing I want this podcast to do is to give you guys behind the scenes insight onto what our lives as journalists is like at some of these big events. And one thing that I wanted to talk about with you, Claire, is what it was like to cover the Dawn Staley statue uncovering, because y'all, when I say I am distressed that I missed the statue unveiling.
Seriously,
because
of
all times to have a surgery. I mean, come on, man. It's such a big event. But Dawn Staley, obviously, they announced it a couple years ago, so we knew it was happening, but it was a really quick notice. We didn't get told until Monday that it was going to be unveiled on Wednesday. So you guys, I'm at home laying on the couch and I'm texting like, okay, I guess everyone's got to get a game plan together. So when you're covering a big event like that, Claire, what does that day look like for people who really, I watched the stream, it was great, but a lot of people, they watch that, they turn it on, they turn it off. But what does the day as a whole look like for you covering that?
Well, especially because it's someone like Dawn Staley and you know how the Gamecock fans show up, you expect something big. And so that's what we did. The ceremony itself, we knew was going to start at 4:00. And we're like, oh, we need to be there out early. So we were getting there about 1:30, 2:00. And if anybody remembers what it was like out in Columbia that day, it was like 90 plus degrees out.
At 4:00.
It was hot. So we go out. I go out with one of our photographers to help us out because this is a big game. So it's big game.
Big game.
Big event. So it's kind of all hands on deck. Like let's get the coverage out to all of you. So we went out about 2:00, go get everything set up. You
want to get your spot. You got to get your spot.
We want to get our spot. And so what they do is they have a big platform out. And so it's like the statues straight out in front of us. We're on these riser stage kind of situation, and it's media from everywhere. You have all the local media. I'm sure there were some national media there as well, and that's also why you want to get there so early. You want to get a good view. And where the statue is actually is right where there's that I Love You statue.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were situated right behind there. So you also didn't want to be directly front and center because you would have a finger in your face because of the statue. So we got there, got set up. The ceremony, like you said, it was pretty sectioned off. There were 250 seats directly out in front. Those were for close friends, family, former players,
longtime friends.
Yeah,
all that,
Steve Spurrier was there. Some other coaches, current and past, were there as well. And then beyond that was where fans could be, just like line in the streets kind of thing. And so it was a really nice ceremony. You had people from the city, you had people from the mayor's office. Dawn Staley's former coach was there. I thought that was really special. And of course, all the current players goofing off in the seats. It was so funny. I posted a video of Dawn Staley walking in. I'd even noticed until someone responded to the video and replied. But as Staley was walking in, Joyce Edwards was pretending like she was a fan. She's like, oh, Dawn Staley, over here. It was so funny. I completely missed it the first time. I was so glad somebody pointed that out. We talk about Dawn's daycare. It never ends. It's just a new year of daycare students coming in.
And I think, too, what people need to understand, an event like that, when it's someone like Dawn Staley and a statue unveiling downtown, it's not just a sports story anymore. It's a news story, and it's all hands on deck. You know, we are the team at WACH FOX, so we have to think about our digital aspect, not only just the live stream on YouTube and Facebook and our website, but individual sound bites. So you're out at the actual event. Jared, who you guys know from this podcast, is back here in-house cutting sound bites for social media, for Twitter, for TikTok, for Instagram threads, for whatever it is, getting a web story up as fast as possible. Then you got to think about the actual on-air broadcast, that traditional media that we talk about, the 5 o'clock, which it went into the 5 o'clock. It was a long ceremony. So then you have to adjust your 5 o'clock show because if Dawn Staley's talking live, you got to show it. And then you got to think about, okay, what you have to do a package for 10. You have to think about Sports Zone, our 30-minute show at night. So there's so many components that you have to think about. It's not just like set up a camera and show it. It's you have to think of all of these different things, like a checklist almost for all these different platforms that in 2025 we have to do at these huge events, because that is the story of the day.
I think that's how TV has changed so much over the years. You used to think of it as just like, oh, the 5 p.m. show. Okay, this is it. It's happening right now. Okay, bye-bye. It ends there. No, it doesn't, because, I mean, the ceremony was at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. Most of you were probably at work, something like that. You can't tune into a live broadcast. So that's why Jared, like you said, was clipping sound bites, trying to get them out on social media for people to see them in different ways. People all over the world to see them, because we know the Gamecock fan base goes so far. And then, like he said, we the ceremony went into the 5 o'clock show, so we had our camera set up so that in the news show, I wasn't on camera talking, but they could just get like a live look in to the show. And then later on, I was able to do a hit on TV to talk about what had happened. I was standing with the statue right behind me. The ceremony was over at that point. And then doing a longer portion for our show at 10 o'clock and for Sports Zone, but also for our sister stations across the country who wanted the package as well. So sending it off to them. So again, people all across the country can see it. The national media at that point wanted it. So it's an
all-day thing. It's not just like 4 to 5. It is an all-day thing. And you go into the day, once you kind of get reps under your belt, you go into a day like that knowing, okay, it's not just a 1 hour thing. It's going to be all day long. And as we kind of wrap this up, the one thing I did think that was interesting, because I always wondered, like, how far is the statue thing going to go? Like, is it going to be like at the jersey retirements to where we're going to have like a bunch around? And obviously Asia is there, and now Dawn. But Dawn kind of made it clear that, like, that's it. Because I always wondered, like, maybe, like, would Aaliyah Boston get one? She's also a Naismith winner, a star, that kind of thing, a national champion and all that. And, like, when does it continue? But I think that she kind of solidified that, like, Asia's it as far as the CLA, in her opinion. This one, she's doing for what it means for women and for women's sports. But I think that's it on the statues.
Yeah, and that's something when it was first brought to her, she said she wanted Asia to just be it, nothing else. She didn't even want something for herself. And she's like, well, I'm definitely not going at CLA. That's hers. I don't want to be near it.
Yeah.
And so then when it was proposed to be down the street, she's like, okay. And then when they told her the meaning behind the organization, that I'm trying to remember some of the numbers off the top of my head. I believe they said 6% of statues across the world depict women. That's it. And then 1% are women in sports. So it really means a lot to get a statue of Dawn Staley. And now one thing I want to ask you was your reaction to what the statue actually was.
Oh, I loved it.
I think when you picture, someone's getting a statue, you just assume it's just going to be like, just standing straight, smiling. But how iconic is it to have her cutting down the net?
Loved it. I thought it was so creative. I didn't. When it unveiled, I was like, oh, whoa, like that's cool. Having the ladder, I figured it would have something to do with the net because the netless is so iconic. But I thought her being on the ladder with the net, all of that. And I kind of researched, I was like, okay, which net is this? Because there's a million of them. And I figured out that it was from the 2015 Elite Eight. So it was the first time they went to the Final Four. I just looked for the jacket. I was like, what is and so it's from the 2015 Elite Eight is the net cutting. And that was the first time they went to the Final Four. And so that's the one that they chose. And she is wearing the hat in that and all that kind of stuff. And you can see the face, I think, better from the street view. I know a lot of people were like, where's her face? Where's her face? But it's clear in person.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was supposed to depict. The picture, that's what's so iconic. And she's kind of like, you're on top of the ladder, obviously. You're kind of looking down. So she's kind of like looking down and smiling. So, and I like that imagery as well, too, how she talked about she hopes a little girl comes and sees it. So looking up, looking down at the little girl, that kind of thing.
Love it. I thought it was great. And I hope you guys find the behind the scenes stories interesting because it is so much hard work and so many logistics and so many things you have to do on a day like that. South Carolina Sideline, one more timeout. We'll wrap up right after this. All right, another week of South Carolina Sideline. I'm so happy to be back here in the podcast studio with you, Claire. You guys have done such a good job. Again, make sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Follow us on YouTube and all of our listening platforms where you listen to your podcasts. But looking forward to a great week. Baseball, of course, back in town. Softball is going to be the big story for us this week as they begin their national championship hopes. And I think you can say that. It's not just like beginning their tournament, just in general. They're looking to make a big run here, and I think they can do it.
The road to Oklahoma has started.
Road to Oklahoma has started. I'm looking forward to it. Claire, anything you want to say before we wrap up this episode?
Just happy to have you back.
Thanks.
It's been a long month without you here. I mean, trying to think, like, you left like right after women's basketball ended. So that feels like a lifetime ago at this point. So happy to have you back.
I know. I'm happy to be back. I watched a lot of TV, read a lot of books. So if you guys need any recs, hit me up on social media and I'll let you know what I watched because I watched a lot. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt Dowell. She's Claire Foley. We'll be back with more South Carolina Sideline. Again, thanks for watching. Listen, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you later here on South Carolina Sideline.